in one specific region, you know? Just look at how widespread this is, from the busy streets of the United States and Canada, down through Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, and Chile, and all the way across the globe to the mountains of China and the coastlines of Russia. This is a worldwide phenomenon for sure, and these data points are coming in from virtually every type of landscape on Earth.
But what really brings this all into focus is the timeline. The year 2026 saw an unprecedented and frankly bizarre concentration of these events, rapidly escalating straight through the spring and summer. In March, we had sightings from Washington to the Appalachians. Then, well, just look at June. It absolutely explodes. We've got distinct events in Las Vegas, Nashville, Brampton, and Brazil all happening within days of each other. And by July, we're seeing encounters on U.S. highways and even right from the cockpit of a fighter jet. This timeline clearly shows us that whatever is happening here, the frequency is escalating dramatically.
So, to decode this dense volume of information logically, we're going to group these sightings into 4 main categories. Number 1, spheres, cubes, and disks. 2, energy beams and discharges. 3, bold flights and formations. And finally, 4, military encounters and confiscations. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, spheres, cubes, and disks. The sheer geometric variety of these undocumented crafts completely challenges our conventional understanding of aerodynamics. The absolutely crucial point here is that we aren't just seeing one type of object. In Monterrey, Mexico, hundreds of people witnessed a massive, completely silent silver sphere. Then, if we switch over to Jekyll Island, Georgia, a fiery orange cigar-shaped craft was spotted 2 miles out over the ocean, just glowing steadily. Drifting through the afternoon sky in Washington, an observer documented this bizarre, irregular cluster of connected silver spheres. And, right in broad daylight in Louisville, Kentucky, a perfectly rotating silver cube was recorded. No wings, no rotors, no exhaust. Just pure, clean, geometric shapes effortlessly moving through our skies. Which really brings us to that Monterey sphere specifically. I mean, picture this. Hundreds of people at a festival, loud music, dancing, dusk is settling in. And then, this massive, completely silent, unlit silver sphere intentionally passes directly through the festival airspace. No drone operates at that scale in complete silence. It's definitely unsettling. So what was drawn to that festival crowd in Monterey? Was it observing the gathering? The intentionality of moving directly over a loud, crowded public celebration? That is something that really stays with you. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how the behavior changes in Section 2. Energy beams and discharges. We're transitioning here from passive hovering to active environmental interaction. These crafts aren't just observing. Actually, they're actively projecting energy right into their environments. Just notice the intensity of these events. We've got a metallic disk releasing controlled, bluish, lightning-like bursts right down into the Appalachian peaks. And to be clear, that is not natural weather, it's directed energy. Then you have an entire street literally coming to a standstill under a massive, solid blue beam illuminating a U.S. urban neighborhood at 11:30 p.m. And perhaps most chillingly, a glowing orange triangular craft casting a brilliant purple beam simultaneously upward into the sky and downward into the valleys over a Chilean glacier. When you look at the raw power and the distinct direction of these lights, you really have to ask yourself, were these crafts systematically scanning the terrain beneath them? Whether it's deep in the Chilean mountains or directly over suburban homes at midnight, the deliberate nature of these high-powered beams heavily suggests a specific technological purpose that we simply do not understand yet. And that brings us to Section 3, bold flights and formations. We are seeing a massive thematic shift right here. These objects are getting much, much closer, they're flying significantly lower, and they're operating with what looks like a complete disregard for human observation. 20 to 30 feet. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is how low a dark, featureless metallic mass was suspended directly above the streets of Las Vegas at 6:30 p.m. It wasn't way up at cruising altitude. It was hovering just above where people walk and live. No lights, no sound, just a massive physical object hanging dangerously close to rooftops in the fading dusk light. And Vegas is just the beginning. The audacity here is staggering. We've got objects hovering completely unbothered directly over rush hour traffic in Brampton, Canada, and executing coordinated formations of 3 identical glowing disks pulsing right over the densely populated New York skyline. We saw one playing a calculated game of evasion with hikers in the Beijing mountains, intentionally maintaining its distance, while others casually camped overnight on mountains in Brazil. Over in Nashville, one orb roamed the sky while another anchored itself perfectly still. Add to that a multicolored disc suspended directly over a U.S. highway, a craft executing highly unnatural maneuvers at just 600 meters in Colombia, and, maybe most terrifyingly of all, a literal stare down in Mexico, where a craft hovered a mere 100 meters away from a family on their rooftop in the twilight.
You really kind of have to marvel at the sheer confidence of these objects. I mean, what makes them suddenly so comfortable hovering right out in the open like that? They will blatantly park over Brampton rush hour traffic or a Brazilian mountain without making any attempt to hide behind clouds or speed away when noticed. It's like they operate entirely on their own terms.
Which leads us perfectly into our final category, Section 4, Military Encounters and Confiscations. So what happens when military hardware is involved, or when these anomalous objects actually touch down on Earth? Well, we have some deeply eerie historical footage from a beach in Russia. A civilian filmed a solid, silvery, metallic object just resting quietly on the sand. Within minutes, a black truck arrived. 4 men, carrying themselves exactly like government officials, stepped out. One of them stopped the civilian from filming, while the others immediately approached the craft. As the quote says, they covered it completely with black cloth and then lifted it into the back of that truck. No press release, no public acknowledgement. Just a swift, completely silent confiscation. And it's not just happening on the ground. On July 1st, 2026, footage surfaced that was filmed directly from the cockpit of a fighter jet. This wasn't some fuzzy speck from a cell phone down on the ground. This was a classic flying saucer-shaped object traveling right alongside military equipment. No wings, no rotors, no exhaust trails. This pilot had a front row seat to an object completely defying our understanding of physics, which gives this specific encounter a heavy, undeniable layer of aviation credibility.
Now, we absolutely have to address the elephant in the room when it comes to visual data today. There is a fierce online divide regarding footage like the perfect Louisville cube or that fighter jet saucer. On one side, viewers see genuine metallic UAPs demonstrating controlled flight, defying gravity, and matching absolutely no known public catalog. But on the other side, skeptics point to modern trickery, the massive rise of incredibly advanced AI generation and highly accessible VFX software. Now, as an explainer, we aren't here to pick sides, but we definitely have to acknowledge that this debate makes categorizing raw data incredibly complex in the modern era.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why that debate is so fascinating. Take a look at this event from June 2009 near Lake Tahoe. Tourists recorded a silver disc-shaped craft pulling upward and rotating with a casual disregard for gravity. So why does this matter? Well, because 2009 predates the kind of advanced, accessible visual effects software capable of easily producing this kind of convincing trickery for casual creators. Its age throws a massive wrench into the easy, "oh, it's just AI" argument, anchoring the phenomenon in a time before digital fabrication was just a simple excuse. So we've looked at the geometric shapes, the powerful energy beams, the incredibly bold low-altitude flights, and those intense military connections. But I want to leave you with one final thought, going all the way back to that incident on the Russian beach. A silvery object quietly removed from a public beach, immediately covered up, with zero official response. What do you think those 4 men already knew about what was sitting on that sand? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I highly encourage you to go dissect this incredible source data for yourself.